Coming at you live from the depths of the hive. We are back, and it's Saturday morning.
Good morning, good morning. We are live from the hive on this rainy Saturday morning here in Western Illinois, but I hope I find everybody well. I have just had to stop my dog from going into the other end of the hive here at the other end of the basement and going to the bathroom because she didn't want to go outside and go because it's raining. So she's like, I'll just poop inside today. And that's not how it works. That's not how it works, puppers. Please welcome the guest of honor today, Cosmic Kyle, because that's the intro toggle was just one of many things that Cosmic Kyle has helped me with. So I always appreciate you, Kyle, because they basically compiled those images for the creepy long furby hellscape image. Yeah, if you want to drop a link to that, I don't know if you can. It's a public group, right? If you can drop a link to it, drop a link. That's where all those images came from. We just compile them together. We're a bunch of weirdos on Facebook who like to talk about weird long Furbies and not just long Furbies, just any kind of customized Furbies because they're weird and cool and creepy and kind of attach some disturbing lore to them, like creepypasta style. So good. As you can see, BugBot is up and running. BugBot is possessing new commands. I've kind of reorganized. I did notice that the orders command is very, very overburdened. I did not test it out to see how many posts it was going to be. I don't want a single command to pop up more than 2, so I'm going to have to narrow that down. We'll see what we do with that. But there's a lot of different orders. All the ones that have the exclamation point have further detail, so you could feel free to explore different arthropod orders out there. I think all the orders are pretty much insects. So I have all the major orders of insects covered and kind of what's underneath a large portion of them. So feel free to explore BugBot's little fun facts and guides through the arthropod microcosm, because that is what BugBot is here for. I was also I'm still toying with how I want to do Bug of the Week, so we may not launch that till we do the channel name in June. The channel name change on June, starting in June. So that will be probably when we sort out how we're going to do Bug of the Week. I think I'm going to do maybe like what I'm doing here with a poll for what the Bug of the Week is going to be for the next week, and then either releasing it or doing a live on Tuesday evenings. But we'll see what happens. Right now, Bug of the Week is going to be on the back burner, though. I just want to do something different with it. I don't know. It always felt disjointed on Live from the Hive, because it doesn't seem like something that's live and needs to be happening now. It seems like something we could put a little more time into and standardize, so that you're getting some standardized information as well as just interesting facts, or because I have time to really delve into it, I guess is what I'm saying, and I can compile a release schedule for them. But we'll see what happens. We'll definitely. Oh, there we go. You guys are all over BugBot this morning. I'm so glad to see. Thank you, Ring, for engaging with my my monster. Hopefully it doesn't stifle the stream, but I just thought having that out there would be fun. All right, so where was I? Yeah. So we have the Facebook group for the long Furbies. Check that out. The tortoises. Yes. So who caught my stream just the other night? I was down on the patio and they were out eating, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna stream this because they're so cute, munching on these clover and grasses and stuff. So I put them out in the yard and out on the patio and streamed with you guys for a little bit. It was only about 15 minutes, but it was fun. If you like stuff like that, let me know. That's kind of the format I'm going to do the backyard safari stuff in. It's going to be sporadic. It's going to be, at the moment, in the moment when I discover something, when we get a new creature, when we find something cool. I mean, it's not just going to be bugs though. It's going to be anything and everything. If I get even pictures of a cool creature, I might just share them on my YouTube account as part of the backyard safari experience as well. If I'm just not able to do something live, but I can get some pictures or a short little clip, I'll put it up as a short, or I'll put it up in my community tab as some images to enjoy. So keep your eye out for that, because backyard safari is going to be something I'm going to focus on in the summer, because I need to get out and be more active and be outdoors more. I'm an outdoors person. I spent all the last summer, because of my depression, basically hiding inside and basically hiding down here, even in the basement. So I need to get out more. I am an outdoors person. I do love to be out in nature. So help encourage me to be healthier and get out there by supporting these backyard safari adventures. It's not always going to be just out in my backyard, of course. It's going to be maybe a walk around the neighborhood or around town, maybe a park, maybe I go kayaking and hiking sometimes. Maybe something like that too. We shall see. Setting up my own ark, yeah, it's just going to be arthropod dominant though, so it's not going to have to be as big. It's going to be basically like a surfboard, which is covered with bugs. And yeah. Okay, and another thing that happened this week, we had actually a couple library trips this week. We've been trying to get out and go to the library too. We're trying to get out more. Yeah, I would love to go out for a hike with you too, Sandy. I love going for hikes. Really nice looking wolf spiders. I'm glad that, the spiders are out and about here too. We're getting all kinds of creepy crawlies out running around. It's great. When I was cleaning up my patio for the spring, I did like the spring cleaning last weekend, like last Sunday. Just overhauled the whole patio. We got a new swing to put out there and everything, so it's looking very nice. But yeah, it's one of the things I got done this last weekend. So we'll be able to do some streaming from out there too. It was all overgrown and kind of just, wintered, just everything covered up and buckled down and stuff stored away, and everything's out now, lights and all that. So yeah, you'll definitely be able to you should definitely expect to see more outside live stuff. And yeah, the library anyway was one of the many destinations that we had this week, and I was in the science section. I'm looking through the books, seeing what they had, in the science section, and I was we're talking Dawkins and stuff like that, because I'm looking at me, I'm looking at evolutionary biology and things like that. Also, David Attenborough and things like that as well. I like, any animal science book. But nested right among these legitimate works of science was a book that I instantly recognized because it has a very distinctive cover, and it is talked about time and again in this community, and that is this book, Replacing Darwin: The New Origin of Species by Nathaniel T. Jensen. Okay, this is, for a long time, Standing for Truth Ministries, just leaned really heavy on everything in this book. They didn't. This book was their entire argument. It was kind of, I don't want to be mean. I don't want to say, it's kind of bad science, but you cannot put all your eggs into the basket of one researcher and say this one researcher conflicts with every other researcher on this topic, so this one person is right. That's not the way that you science, and you got to cite a body of evidence, not a single piece of evidence, not a single researcher's interpretation of that evidence, just in order to be consistent. So we are gonna go into this. I haven't started it yet, but I do intend to. So we will see what it holds. Be mean, please. Yes. I'm not. I'm going to be critical. I'm going to be skeptical, and I'm going to cross-check some of my favorite actual geneticists on YouTube, like Dr. Dan, have gone over this book. Some of my favorite origin of life researchers and students of biology have engaged with the arguments made in this book, such as Gutsick Gibbon, Jackson Wheat, R.J. Downer, all these folks that I think even Aaron Ra addressed some of the claims made in this book. So we'll see what I can pull from this. I can have it for probably a couple months, so I'll get through it eventually. And I'm not going to pretend that I understand genetics enough to grasp everything in that book. But what I do when I study a topic I don't understand is I defer to people who do understand and ask them to explain it. You all saw that when I was talking about the ringwoodite, the layer of water underneath the crust of the earth and the mantle. When I didn't understand what they were talking about, I went to experts. I went to geologists. I know geologists, and I went to them. I said, "Hey, how's this work?" And they explained it to me. And I'm like, "Okay." And then I made my rebuttal. That's how I do it. I don't just because I think you're wrong. And there is going to be technical arguments made in there that I'm going to have to delve into. So it's going to be a project, but that's something I do intend to do because I don't want to criticize any work without having read it first and made an attempt to understand it. So that's how we do here in the Hive. All right. Why read it yourself when you have YouTube videos to tell you about it? No, I will. That's probably what I will do. I'll probably go back and watch and watch Dr. Dan's video and kind of go through it from the beginning with him, or like maybe probably listen to it with my earbuds while I sit there with the book on my lap. Is probably how I'm going to do it. That way, I'm getting a interpretation from someone who works in the field about what the topic, about the actual topic that's covered in the volume itself. Yeah, that's what we'll do, Mark. You are right. No centipedes yet. I got all the orders of insects, all the major orders anyway. There are some that I didn't get, but some of the minor orders. And I got just some spiders and just scorpions in general out there. No centipedes yet, but we're working on. We'll have centipedes and we'll have some crustaceans too. No worries. BugBot is going to have a robust encyclopedia of fun facts for us to go through. We keep exploring. That's what I like to see. How about a live show? Digging and eating lawn grubs. Would you guys want to see me eat? My problem with eating anything out of your, and I'm not opposed to eating lawn grubs. You could, I imagine you could saute them up with like a stir fry like you do with shrimp. I don't imagine it would be much different than that. But the problem you have with anything in at least in the area I live in, I'm in the U.S., so is all the heavy metals in the soil that just absorb from the atmosphere. The heavy metals are released into the atmosphere and they fall all over the place where there's any kind of industry. So the soils are saturated with heavy metals. They're not good for you to really consume in the way that that grubs, anything that broods in the ground or underground, which is a lot of insects, beetles, grubs, which is what we're talking about. The way they absorb nutrients from their environment as they grow makes it problematic that you're going to be to consume them, because you'll eat a lot, or you'll consume a lot of those heavy metals in your body that are really not healthy for you. But other than that, I don't see any problem with actually eating lawn grubs as a source of protein. It doesn't seem to be problematic to me, but we'll see what happens. All right, we need to get started because it's almost time for Cryptic Corner. And before I do Cryptic Corner, I want to give another shout out to Cosmic Kyle. They have this great series on our solar system that they've put out with just little 2-minute clips of different heavenly bodies and talking about their place in the solar system, their place in our galaxy, their place in the world that we live in, and how they interact. Just again, fun facts are always a favorite of mine. I like just little fun stuff. So this leads us into Cryptic Corner. So Cryptic Corner today, we are actually going to be visiting the Red Planet. And before we visit the Red Planet, I do want to just take a moment to allow Cosmic Kyle to explain a little bit to us about the Red Planet. So let me get this pulled up here, and we will get to enjoy that. So I'm going to take a quick drink of my coffee before we get started on that. There we are. All right, here we go. We are going to be exploring the planet Mars as part of Cryptic Corner, because few other places are considered the origin of extraterrestrial life. Few places as much as Mars. And that's because Mars is a body that is very much like Earth, which supports life. It is within what we call the habitable zone, so it's a planet within a region that can support life. But before I give too many facts, I don't want to repeat anything Kyle says, so let's let Kyle tell us about Mars.
Today on Science Shorts, Our journey through the planets leads us to the fourth from the sun, a favorite in science fiction and fact: Mars. Mars is named for the Roman god of war and is often referred to as the Red Planet due to its covering of iron oxide. It orbits the Sun at a distance of around 141.6 million miles and 154 million miles at its greatest distance. Deep in the past, Mars had liquid water oceans and a thicker atmosphere, which may have been conducive to life. Several missions have been undertaken to answer that question. Mars also holds the record for highest peak in the solar system. The mountain, a shield volcano named Olympus Mons, towers above the Martian plains at more than 21 kilometers high, 2.5 times Mount Everest's height above sea level. Science fiction and the Red Planet have a deep history, from stories of alien life to human civilization settling in. And in recent years, talks of colonizing Mars have taken place, and may end up being our second home, one day. Until next time.
Have gone on, researchers have made some interesting discoveries, some of which may point to life existing.
I muted my microphone for Cosmic Kyle. Sorry about that. Let us start this over. My apologies. Okay, so we are going to be exploring Unexplained Mysteries claims about a door on Mars. I am sorry that I had myself muted because I was watching Kyle's video. Thank you everybody for shouting at me. I need to pay closer attention to my chat. I just pulled a raging atheist, I guess. All right, so I will cut that part out of my of the streams, or of the Cryptic Corner on Friday, so that you all have to listen to that. All right, so back to what I was saying. That was Cosmic Kyle doing a little piece on Mars and giving us some basic facts on it. So we will now be looking at the claims about the little doorway on Mars that people have made, because that was a novel discovery, and now the woo community has attached themselves to it and made some claims. So this is Unexplained Mysteries, and it's a channel that we have visited before. They do just like exposés on different alleged supernatural and unnatural discoveries. So let's move on. Unexplained Mysteries.
As of right now, humans have never explored
The
another
videos
planet
should be
within our
making
solar
sound now.
system. But for years now, some of our best minds have said that Mars would be a good start. Ever since we sent probes and rovers to investigate the planet though, many people have said that they've noticed some strange things happening on the surface. This has led NASA to come forward and deny any of these claims, noting that Mars's atmosphere couldn't sustain life. But as the years have gone on, researchers have made some interesting discoveries, some of which may point to life existing, or once existing on the Red Planet.
So once upon a time, Mars had an atmosphere, based on our current understanding, and the atmosphere allowed it to have liquid water on the surface. Now, currently, Mars has such a thin atmosphere that water cannot be retained on the surface due to no atmosphere to contain it from evaporating into the recesses of space.
One of the most recent discoveries to be shared around social media was this one, showing what appears to be a large opening in one of the cliffs of Mars.
Note that he said it's a large opening. We're going to have to circle back to that in a little bit.
This sparked a debate online, with some users saying that this formation doesn't look natural, while others questioned whether nature could form this. One user said that it resembles a doorway, and questioned whether NASA could send one of the rovers inside to investigate, further saying that the images were sent to us by one of the rovers, so it's very near. Others carried on from this and said if you were NASA, why wouldn't you direct the rover to go inside, saying that surely most people would be interested to see what's inside. This isn't the first time that photographs like this have been taken.
Okay, so I want to take note that they're talking about inside. Just in this, the lighting's better at this angle. There's no inside here. This is just a shadowy area. This is the back. There's no, this isn't an entryway or anything. Well, we'll come back to that.
And it's led many to spend hours looking through photographs of Mars in the hopes of finding something strange. Other objects that have been found here include animals like birds, crabs, rats and snakes, and also large pyramid-like structures. As mentioned earlier though, it's important
Touché, Mark Caesar. Nobody heard me.
to note that NASA doesn't buy into these claims, and have said that what people are seeing is just pareidolia. But it hasn't stopped amateur researchers from looking through these images in the hopes of finding something strange. Another user said the following about this photograph. I'm not saying it's something mysterious.
So, this one, look, you can see the back of this. It's just a fissure. Is what I mean. Yeah. Well, hold on. So we got other things
But
to
it
look
does
at.
stand out as looking strange. This photograph is sole image 3466, and 3 of them were taken by the Mars rover, and as of right now they're on NASA's official website. As most have said, I think the space agency should instruct the rover to go over and take a look. Why wouldn't you? It's one of the most interesting things we found recently. I think it's worth a look inside. Another interesting photograph that often does the rounds on social media is this one.
All right.
That allegedly shows 3 giant
we will circle back. We will circle back to these sightings, which is a little something different too. It doesn't look natural. You don't think so, Native Atheist? Well, we're gonna dive into it. Don't worry, we will get there. So let's go into this. There we go. Okay, so this is on NASA's website. And this is the composite of this area. Okay, so we can zoom in. And we can zoom in a little bit more. Yeah, okay, this is as much as we can zoom in. But here's the landscape. Vertical face to get there. Alright, so as you can see, we're looking at a bit of a broken landscape here. Now I'm hyper observant of my side chat, making sure that everybody can still hear everything. And as you can see, there's these little broken sections of the rock face here. Just broken, cracked sections. There's a very rugged terrain, lots of cracks, fissures, and the lighting makes the cracks and fissures look especially dark. There's a lot of contrast between the shadows and the lit area here. Imagine that the mention that I made earlier of there being no atmosphere feeds into that weird lighting effect. But I digress. Here is our alleged doorway. This little chunk right here, at just the right angle. I do not see it necessarily being anything different than what we see, with this one right here. Just another little break in the rock face. And the way that the shadows are cast because of the lighting here. But as we saw, even in the images of the proponents of this theory, that there is no depth into here when you look at it with a different lighting spectrum. And we will go into that in a little more detail here. So this is from Universe Today. Let me pull this up a little bit bigger for us here. A little bit bigger, just a moment. There we go. Okay, so this is from Universe Today. No, this isn't a doorway on Mars. A Mastcam image from the Mars Curiosity rover captured what looks like a doorway into a rock ledge. It was formed where layered rock cracked and eroded away, courtesy NASA Mars Curiosity rover team. The planet Mars has a lot of intriguing geological features, but a doorway in the side of some sedimentary rock on the flank of Mount Sharp, how do you say that, Aeolus Mons, isn't one of them. In fact, no such doorway on Mars, supposedly created by aliens, exist. But there is a break in the rock that really does look like one. The fact that it isn't a real doorway hasn't stopped a lot of speculation over its appearance in an image snapped by the Mastcam of the Curiosity rover on Sol 3466, May 7th, 2022. The plain truth is that the odd-looking feature is really a fracture in ancient layered sand sands that, I guess it says sand, but I think it's sands might be a proper way to put that, that has layered into rock over millions of years. A combination of light, shadow, and viewing angle make it look like a door, but it's not. I mean, that's pretty straightforward. You can see the back of it. A close-up of the purported doorway on Mars shows the structure of rock, cracks inside the broken area, and sand deposits nearby. Cutaway from the Mastcam image by C.C. Peterson. It's not the first time an odd something on Mars or other places in the solar system, including Earth, have caught people's attention. People are familiar with the face on Mars. If you're over the purported alien face on the planet, it turned out to be nothing more than an eroded mesa in the Sidonian region. But that didn't stop a small cottage industry of writers and speakers from pushing the idea that ancient aliens built it as a signal to us or something. Subsequent missions that imaged the surface showed that there are no faces on Mars, and there aren't any statues or spoons or other spooky objects either. In every case, the object that people thought they saw turned out to be ordinary rocks or rock formations. Yeah, this is a common theme in certain communities, and as GeoSam has pointed out in in the side chat there, pareidolia is the prominent culprit of that issue. So, human brains are super good at picking out patterns and creating our own patterns when there isn't one to pick out. So, we look at natural formations and see faces. We look at knots in wood and see faces, or other objects. And it is just the way that our wild primate brains work. It helps us to conceptualize complex ideas too. So, being that, I don't know what the spoons comment was. Has there been a claim of spoons on Mars? That might be something we have to look into. I have not heard of spoons on Mars, and I'm usually knee deep in this stuff most of the time. A science doorway on Mars. Now that's more like it. That's what I want to hear about. A composite image of Mount Sharp in Gale Crater, created by NASA Curiosity rover in 2015. The rover is currently atop a region called Greenhue pediment on the mountain, which is where it snapped the image of the doorway on Mars. It has excited people's imaginations. Credit, NASA. There are a lot of really cool features on Mars: rock formations, riverbeds, volcanoes, and craters. They provide more than enough exciting science, so we really don't need mysterious visions that stem from overactive imaginations and the very human tendency to see shapes or make pictures out of random, ambiguous visual scenes. There you go, GeoSam. The technical term for that is tendency is pareidolia. Now, GeoSam wins the internet today. Where were we? There we go. Okay. We've covered the term before in stories about the moon. So this is something, and we'll have to visit the moon at some point as well, I'm sure, and other interesting objects in space. In a way, the purported mysterious door rock feature on Mars gives us a chance to do a quick review here about what the Curiosity rover has helped scientists discover. Currently, it is exploring the central mountain in Gale Crater. There are some pretty familiar looking scenes there, and the familiarity does provide us with a doorway to understanding ancient and current Mars and how it goes the way it is, or how it got the way it is. Okay, recognizing familiar things on a distant world. We see a lot of sandstone and other sedimentary rock on Mars, particularly in the area Curiosity is exploring. They look familiar to us because they are similar rocks here on Earth. Understanding how they form here opens a door, see how they did that with the door puns, to an understanding of how they formed on Mars. Similar processes were involved in both cases: deposition and erosion by water and wind. By observing such materials here at home and how they behave, we can get a good feel for what is happening to the sibling rocks on Mars. For example, if you are familiar with sandstone here on Earth, you know it can break pretty easily into sharp shards. Anyone with sandstone sidewalk is probably quite aware of how fragile this stuff can be. So seeing similar types of rock fractures and rock fractured and broken on Mars isn't a surprise. But seeing it break into such strange shapes certainly did get a lot of attention, which we can use to learn more about Mars. Understanding the geology of the doorway on Mars, the region that Curiosity is traveling through right now is called the Greenhue pediment on Mount Sharp. When the mast cam caught the image of the doorway on Mars, it was looking at a series of rocks that began life as sand dunes. These were probably deposited by what geologists call aeolian processes. That means wind action. Over time, the hardening into solid rock. Then, in one small area, something caused the rock to fracture in a couple of places. It probably wasn't anything mysterious, perhaps a little Mars quake or some other natural process. The blocks of rock eventually moved apart, and it left behind what looks like a door. The green hue pediment is part of Mount Sharp, which is itself a 5.5 kilometer high mound of sedimentary layered rock. Curiosity has been traversing the pediment, studying the topmost layer of sandstone. There is evidence of clay-bearing rocks in the region as well. Just as it began its trip up the mountain some years ago, Curiosity found evidence for mudstone, rocks that could only be formed by the presence of water. The story of Mount Sharp is still unfolding, but here's what planetary scientists think happened to form it. First, Gale Crater was formed more than 3.5 billion years ago when an asteroid or comet hit the planet. Aeolus Mons is the central peak of that crater, and it rises up about 5.5 kilometers. Mount Everest is 8.8 kilometers high by comparison. Over millions of years, water flowed from the northern rim of the crater into the center. That deposited sediment on the floor of the crater. Flowing water created the mound of debris that makes up Mount Sharp. Certainly some materials were deposited in the region by wind action too. You can kind of see the way the landscape looks here. And as it trekked along, Curiosity is exploring the remains of the mound that comprises Mount Sharp. The discovery of the break in the rocks that looks like a doorway on Mars is part of its exploration of the Gale Crater and Mount Sharp's rocks. Curiosity opens more doors in discovery. Okay, so the exploration of the green hue pediment. I think I decided I was going to pronounce that green hue pediment is only the latest of Curiosity's explorations. During its time on Mars, the rover has been a veritable geology lab. It's crawled all over the surface of the planet there. It has found evidence of flow features made by wet brines. Brines are salty fluids. It also found clues that the ancient lakes and streams that filled the crater, and that contributes to larger story of water on Mars, which water on Mars is a whole amazing topic. And through my life, I've seen, no water on Mars, to water on Mars, to now or water that may have sustained the elements needed for life to form, for abiogenesis, much the same as early Earth did. A lot of cool stuff coming out about that. I follow that topic very closely because it's interesting and fun. The search for that life in the... here we go. There's been a lot of speculation that such a lake could have welcomed and nourished microbial life at one point in time. There is no proof that life existed yet. The search for that life and the environments where it could have flourished is, in part, why NASA and others have sent spacecraft to Mars. Despite the fact that this place is dry and dusty desert of a planet today, its history still intrigues us. And if the rocks break into interesting shapes as they erode and scatter, maybe that's a good thing. It grabs people's attention and creates our fascination with the ever-changing story of the red planet. Yeah, good stuff there. So that was the door on Mars. We looked at the compilation photographs, and the next thing I wanted to talk about was the second part of this video. Oh, you stop. Not yet. And this is just going to be a quick little section here because there's this additional claim being made here about about these images as well.
Interestingly, the three large objects that appear to be protruding from the Martian surface were captured back in 1999, and since then amateur researchers have used it as proof that something is happening on Mars, and that NASA is aware of what these things are. Someone who was searching the Mars surface for anomalies stumbled across what they described were large towers, further saying that whatever these things are, they're clearly big, and that it even looked as though they'd been placed in a line, with some comparing it to the pyramids in Giza that's aligned with the stars. The alleged towers can be found in a region known as Terra Meridiani, and coincidentally this is the region that has been explored by the rover, yet we've had no updated photographs from the rover itself, which is strange as these objects clearly protrude out of the ground, and wouldn't be hard to see.
Martian nipples.
The next issue is those who have looked into these objects revealed the enormous...
Oh, Jenny, love ya. Martian nipples.
Size of these things, saying that when measured they came in at 4.8 kilometers or 2.9 miles. They say that such structures could not be created by nature, and there's nothing around them that looks similar. The next thing they did was using Google Mars get more detailed photographs, and this was when they thought that these things must be artificial and not created by nature, saying that there's nothing around the area that you can compare.
Why would they be? Why do they have to be artificial? Just because? Because they look different than the surrounding landscape? What?
These two, and that there's nothing else on Mars that looks like these things.
Amateur researchers.
Further noting that they don't match any other mountains on the Martian surface. Another interesting thing to note is that the researchers compared these images to older photographs that had been taken from the region, and although they said that you can still see the structures in old archives, they noted that it looked as though NASA made the area fuzzy, so that it would be harder to see the structures.
The amateur researchers found out that NASA made the images fuzzy in this area so you couldn't see these pyramids anymore. Ah, damn it, NASA. Always one step ahead of those amateur researchers.
Although this might sound like an unfair claim, this isn't the first time that NASA has been accused of covering up certain areas. In fact, the agency themselves have said that they've done this in the past. One amateur researcher said the following about the image. All this shows me is that what we're looking at are large towers of artificial origin. It's not like just one of these was found. We have 3 large towers.
Now I can't stop hearing that he keeps referring to them as amateur researchers when these are, what he's talking about, I believe, are like people on Reddit making theories about what these images are. Like, I think that I can't imagine he's talking about anything else. Maybe from some other forums or subreddits or what have you, but...
A row that is still standing tall. The ground around them is flat and there's nothing like them in the area. They are what they look like, large towers. As mentioned, NASA have not got on board with this idea, and have said that although these images look interesting, people are going to be disappointed because what they're looking at is pareidolia. But the mind tricks us into thinking that something is there when it isn't, and said that they've never seen an image of Mars that's made them think that it's nothing more than a rock. So what do you make of this strange structure on Mars?
So, yeah, let's look at these. So this is like a 3D rendering of what they think that they're seeing in that image. Not saying that this is inaccurate or that they don't look like this, but is this the hallmark of design, Geosam? It is conical. You know, all cones are definitely. This is a road. These are road cones. I'm thinking that they're probably because they see us driving around on the surface, and they're saying, hey, you know, this area is off limits. Do not drive through here. That's what I'm seeing. No. But we have strange rock formations and abnormalities and unconformities. We have radicals. We have the things like the Giant's Causeway in the UK, where they're basically pillars of hexagons just marching out into the sea. Rock formation, geology is a complex situation, and physics and the way that the rocks can break and form, and what sticks out and what gets buried and what crumbles and what stays standing. So many factors come into play that it's difficult to make the claim that because these line up like this, that they must be artificial. Because they are tall and raised above the rest of the landscape, they must be artificial. Those are bold claims that are just not backed by any evidence that I've seen. And this is just a 3D rendering of what they think that they're looking at here. If you actually look at the image of what we're seeing here, I don't know that that's necessarily holding water. Again, the way that shadows fall on the surface of Mars is a bit different than what you see on Earth, because there is no atmosphere. So they're getting direct sunlight, but they're also getting the sunlight from a further distance away. So it's not the way shadows fall, the way they move and change is going to be quite a bit different than what you see on Earth. Familiar but different, if you will. Anyhow, let's see here. And I think there was a piece I was going to just go over real quick about these as well. We're not going to watch that, though, because it was already covered in there. Okay. Here we go. Okay, so alien architecture. Towers on Mars allegedly spotted in NASA photo. This is Nature World News. Alien enthusiasts are claiming they have found evidence proving that aliens existed on Mars. According to Express, the conspiracy theorists have spotted 3-mile-high towers built in a line on the surface of the red planet. The bizarre structure was first noted by YouTube channel Mundo Desconocido. The YouTube channel posted a video discussing the structures. The video description read, "Investigating on some Mars images, we have recently found a row of huge towers located in the Martian area of Terra Meridiana, or Meridiani? Yeah. Due to their particular features, we believe that they have an artificial origins. In the following video, we will show you the amazing information, evidence, as well as 3D models. We've already seen the images and the models that will allow you to evaluate correctly the information we propose." Headlines in Global News claim that the images on the video were gathered from the Mars Global Surveyor and Mars Odyssey mission. The Inquisitor notes that the photos were taken years apart, yet the photos were matching. It also shows that the towers have similar formation with the same alignment. Given its almost perfect structure, the conspiracy theorists said it's impossible that those towers are the result of natural erosive or weathering processes. Popular UFO expert Scott Waring, that name sounds familiar. Is that somebody I should know? Sounds like it's somebody I should know. Shared his thoughts about the tower on his blog, UFO Sighting Daily. He wrote, "There's a whole planet full of buildings and artifacts to be discovered on Mars. Here is a fantastic example of that posted on YouTube by YouTuber. I'm not going to pronounce that name again. He found 3 towers. Look almost a mile in height or more. They all look like they were made well because none of them is destroyed. none of them is destroyed, or would it be none of them are destroyed? I don't mean to correct these people's grammar, but I struggle to read sometimes anyway, and not to read. I struggle to read out loud. My brain and my mouth don't connect the best all the time, but when they put roadblocks in the way, it doesn't help. They would be perfect for setting up a human Mars base at, if they are empty, of course. Yeah, if they're not occupied, if these towers aren't occupied by stormtroopers, I guess, by Martians, by Marvin the Martian, who's been patrolling down below this whole stream so far. Meanwhile, neurologists have previously claimed that it is possible that UFO enthusiasts are seeing things that are not supposed to see because of a phenomenon called geosam, say it again for the people in the back, pareidolia, which Live Science defines as all one word, as a type of apophenia, which is a more generalized term used for seeing patterns in random data. Yeah, this whole CryptoCorner or Cryptic Corner has been pareidolia. It's been people seeing things through sometimes not the best lens, because they are pattern-seeking apes, and they're seeing what they're seeing because it's what their brain is wired to do, and it's helped our species survive for, hundreds of thousands of years. So we're going to keep doing it because it works. But it does lead to things like this. It leads to some woo-woo, and that's okay. A little woo-woo is okay every now and then. I don't mind. It gives me something to talk about. It gives me something to do shows about even. So that's a thing. But that was Cryptic Corner. Went a little long, but that's all right. I'm glad we were able to crack open the Mars doorway and have a peek inside. If you disagree with me, if you think that the doorway on Mars was legit, if you think there are 3 mile-high towers on the surface of the red planet, definitely feel free to leave a comment down below and explain why, and give me some sources for your claims, because I love looking into this stuff, and I think I've proven week after week that I am willing to dive into these topics and do some exploring to find out what's really happening, or what seems to really be happening from my perspective. If you are watching us on the premiere for Cryptic Corner on Friday, thank you so much for tuning in. Please remember to be kind and take care. All right, so what's our next stop? Our next stop is going to be Creation Watch. So, Creation Watch this week, we are going to be talking about beauty. I need to raise my chair up. So, a little bit of woo goes a long way. It does, Doubting Thomas. That's why I give you just a taste of the woo before we move forward. And if you like woo, how about an argument from beauty? Because to me, that's pretty woo-woo. But we'll talk about that as we move through the topic. This is going to be a clip from... It's actually on Cindy Lincoln's channel. Cindy Lincoln is one of Kent Hovind's ex-wives. She's still a prominent creationist voice. She's a fairly nice lady. I've seen her engage with Dapper Dino and such. However, she is a young earth creationist and supports young earth creationist ideas that I have to put under the microscope and break down. So let me pull Miss Cindy Lincoln's video up here and have a look. This isn't actually her video. It's from a different I guess set of videos that she's promoting. So here we go. beauty created for its own sake would be absolutely fatal to my theory. Look at some different things that are considered beautiful. There's our beautiful butterfly.
There are at least 8 million different species of animals and plants. And for more than a century, the go-to explanation for their incredible diversity has been the theory of natural selection. Charles Darwin's hypothesis of gradual, undirected biological change has...
So there's our red herring right there. Undirected change. There is direction. I know it's hard to believe a atheist, a agnostic, a skeptic is saying there's direction. No, when you look at what the theory of evolution says, by means of natural selection, the word you need to focus in on there is selection. Selection means that it's not unguided, that it's not random, that it is a selection process, that organisms are selecting to reproduce with other organisms that have the best means of producing viable offspring. There are a multitude of cues that different organisms will use to signal that, and we're going to talk about that. And that's not the only cues that we get from having bright colors, but we will. This is going to be a minute, so hang in there.
Had enormous influence on both science and philosophy.
Red-eyed tree frog.
Yet can a purely materialistic process actually account not only for the stunning variety of living organisms, but also for their extravagant beauty?
I think the place to start with natural selection and beauty is Darwin himself.
So we are going to do some Darwin quote mining here. So I do want to encourage everybody, whenever you hear, and they do like to appeal back to Darwin himself, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, if you want to engage with the things that were actually proposed by Darwin, you do need to hear, do not just get a snippet of the quote and then not any kind of follow-up regarding what Darwin actually had to say about the topic. That's one thing I do want everybody to take away from this, because we're about to dive into that, and you know how that goes. Why did it switch which screen it was showing? Oh, duh. There we go. All right.
He wrote once that every time he saw the tail of a peacock, it made him physically ill, sick to his stomach, because he's looking at something that goes well beyond what his theories, either of natural selection or sexual selection, can explain.
To better understand Darwin's concerns about beauty, peacocks, and their threat to his theory, let's take a closer look at those feathers.
You see the peacock's tail and you go, wow. It's a visual crescendo of symmetry, harmony, coordination.
Yeah, so the actual quote is, "The sight of feathers in a peacock's tail, whenever I gaze at it, makes me sick," Darwin wrote. Yeah. And I pulled up the quote on that because I wanted to make sure that we were giving this full exposure. Darwin had the courage to face the implications of what he had done, but poor Wallace couldn't bear it. The very comprehensive view allowed him to see things he perhaps didn't. He was so sure of his central idea, the transmutation of species and natural selection, that he had to find a way to make it work. Yeah, this is...
among all the elements of the design. And the deeper you look, the more interesting it becomes.
An adult male peacock has, on average, about 200 individual tail feathers.
And please understand as well that when you look at a peacock, and you look at the tails, and you look at the colors, and you just take in all that beauty, which we will again talk about, because this comes back to the pareidolia kind of thing too, because we also have a interesting color spectrum that leads to this great contrast that allows us to pick out foraging items. But we are also makes our eyes so that we pick out contrasting colors, because what you see when you look at a peacock or other colorful bird, for that matter, any colorful bird, or a butterfly, but the butterfly, completely different light spectrum, you are not seeing what the peacock sees, what the female peacock sees when she looks at this. There's a lot more going on here than what we can see with our perception of the color spectrum. Birds have a much wider range of color that they can see on both ends. For most species, they can see better down into the infrared and up into the ultraviolet as well. Now, insects can see up into the ultraviolet well beyond anything any vertebrate sees in that spectrum of light. Fortunately, their brains usually aren't advanced enough to process too much of it, but insects cannot see in infrared. So yeah, that's a interesting fact for you. So when a butterfly sees another butterfly, they are not seeing the same color or necessarily the same patterns that you are seeing. When a peacock spreads its tail feathers out for the peahen is not seeing the same colors and patterns that you are seeing, due to them having completely separate spectrums of light that they can absorb and visualize. So you think that we are seeing beauty here, but you have no idea what the peahen is seeing. You are seeing beauty because your eyes are evolved to pick out color patterns, and you are drawn to brightly contrasting colors, which is because the fruits and such that we foraged on in the past would grow in bright colors, so that would encourage us to eat them. We'd eat them and spread the seeds. Not just humans, but our primate ancestors, as well as the ancestors of birds and bugs, all spectrums of life that have any kind of visual acuity to see colors can pick out these contrasting fruits, and that has allowed us to see the bright colors. So now we're seeing bright contrasting colors, and our natural, as we spoke about in CryptoCorner today, our natural trend towards picking out patterns and pareidolia makes it so that we see colorful patterns that we interpret as beauty.
170 of them feature a decorative eye spot, and 30 are crowned with a wing-shaped plume called a T. When displayed during courtship, the feathers form a magnificent fan, where every eye spot and T are uniformly spaced and geometrically balanced to create a showcase of pattern, symmetry, precision, and design.
To say it's design, though, it's efficacy. It's a display structure to show the fitness to the peahen. And again, what you're interpreting is beauty is actually a message of fitness to the interested females in the area, saying, look how fit I am, I have all this extra energy to waste on this monstrous elaborate tail that actually hinders me, but I'm such a impressive specimen that I can persevere even with this trailing behind me.
This bird is a living, breathing work of art. And when we move in close to the details, we see craftsmanship and planning and subtle engineering that's just utterly obvious.
So, does everybody have their incredulity goggles on? Because these creationists can't understand why or how over generations subtle changes to the structure of a feather can generate a display structure like this. But I think my audience can. I think we are a lot that is going to be able to grasp that.
The shape of every eye spot is defined by rows of multicolored branching strands called barbs. Moving closer, we see that each barb contains thousands of barbules, microscopic filaments tightly compacted along a rigid shaft.
Barbules, they're little hooks. Hooks that, the concept of hooked structures, I think they're in birds, I think they're made of chitin, I want to say. The barbules, just little chitin hooks. If that's too complex of an idea of something that can evolve, I guess, curved little hooks of chitin.
And the surface of each barbule is segmented into crystal-like bands of molecular jewelry. These barbules are reflective, so they glimmer and change color when struck by light.
Well, some of them are. It depends on how the pigmentation is set up in that. Because like blue is there's no blue pigment in the animal kingdom, at least not in tetrapods, and we have to essentially reflect back certain, absorb the green and red light wave, but reflect back the blue in order to get what appears to be a blue pigment.
From different angles.
The total effect of all this decoration provides an excellent example of what is known as gratuitous beauty. That's beauty that goes way beyond what's needed to attract a mate or to provide some other survival advantage. In other words,
I mean, it's gratuitous. I don't disagree with you. It's what evolution gone wild, I guess. You see it with other fitness displays too. Like the main thing that comes to me is like the giant deer, what they used to call the Irish elk, the cervids that had just massive antlers that just, as generations went by, they just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger to be a sexual display to say that they're healthy, and just it got, to the ridiculous extreme. But here we are, and they did not survive. Now the peacock, on the other hand, it's managed to carve out a niche for itself. I don't know, gorgeous animal, but having a gratuitous display structure, I don't think is evidence of creation.
you have features that look like they're there for no other reason than to be gorgeous, to be beautiful.
Right, and there's more that I didn't mean to freeze him with the wink going on, but to you too. But you are not even seeing the whole picture of what the peahen sees. She sees all kinds of beauty.
To be breathtaking.
In nature, gratuitous beauty is not limited to peacocks, for the animal and plant kingdoms are filled with striking visual displays that each evokes an obvious question.
It's almost like having bright colors conserve.
Actually possible through natural selection?
It's almost like having bright colors conserve biological purposes and ecological purposes beyond just what humans perceive as beautiful. Like the beetle doesn't care that you think it's beautiful here. It cares that perhaps this coloring is aposematic and it's warning predators who eat me, I'm poisonous. Perhaps this color is, I don't know this with this particular beetle, what the drivers were for this metallic color, but there are so many different factors that could come into play. And with the flowers, I keep showing flowers blooming. The flowers are brightly colored in contrast to the green leaves to direct the pollinators towards them. It's evolution. They need to be beautiful and brightly colored because that's what the bees are and beetles and bats and birds are looking for.
A blind process devoid of foresight or purpose that theoretically constructed every detail in every organism through a series of biological accidents, random errors in the genetic code.
No, because randomness by definition is going nowhere in particular. So,
but it's not random. Again, we come back to that. This is where we circle back to random. So random and selection cannot be synonymous. Either these these genetic traits are being selected for in the population, or they're just randomly passed down. It's one or the other. And what we understand of the way genetics happen is they are selected for. The males of the peacocks with the most luxurious tails have a better mating success than ones with less luxurious tails. So there's always going to be a driving force to have better and more luxurious tails until the size and shape of the tail becomes a hindrance to the creature's survival. That's kind of where the cap goes. Once it becomes, and that's what happened with the giant deer, the Megaloceros, which Ring has provided the spelling for in the side chat there. So that's the giant deer that I was speaking of. They're, they hit a plateau on this antler size, and then it became too much, and they weren't able to even sustain a population.
The method of explanation, the tools of explanation that natural selection gives us are far too crude for what they need to explain.
It's because natural selection isn't just one thing. It isn't just this female organism picked this male organism to reproduce with so that their offsprings would have potentially these traits which aid in their reproduction. No, it's much deeper than that. So yeah, she picked this male to have this offspring with, but then this environmental factor caused this change, which that male's DNA did not, or which the traits from that male were not as successful as traits with, say, darker coloration or whatever to help hide from predators better, because new predators moved into the area. Things like that. So many factors. Because it flooded and now it's a wet environment, and the ones that have a bill, the birds that have the beak that is better for catching aquatic prey are more successful. Just little factors like that. But when it comes to beauty, if you're living in a green forest and you're wanting to attract a mate, it's not going to help to have green feathers. You're going to want to have brightly colored feathers. Just for example.
Give me an example of chaos and chance producing beauty, and I'll rethink it. But what I see chaos and chance producing is more chaos.
I don't know why it's chaos and chance. It's selection. Again, as I said before, selection is not random. It's not chaotic, and it's not chance. There is decision being made here among the population, among the organisms. They are choosing, they're selecting who they reproduce with, or when they reproduce if they're asexual, or where they reproduce. So many factors go into selection that are going to weigh the success of the population that is produced by those selections. It's not random. Anything but, actually.
It's in chance.
To better grasp the artistic limitations of natural selection, consider the planning, imagination, and skill required to create one of the most famous paintings in history. Michelangelo's mural on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel.
Looking at the ceiling, you have a coherent story. There is a unifying thread of biblical themes that brings it all together. There are symmetries in the way that things have been painted and arranged.
Yep, and you can tell that that it wasn't just splashed on there all at once. That this painting was laid down one brushstroke at a time, slowly over years. This image slowly evolved from brushstrokes. Were those brushstrokes random, or did the artists select where they were putting the brushstrokes? So you want to personify natural selection, that's fine. You want to personify the females of a population choosing where to put their brushstrokes for the next portion of the image, and say that that's God. That's natural selection. That's so females choosing their mates as God is a weird argument.
The use of the space, the way that figures stand at particular intervals in relation to each other. And you see exquisite brushwork over this enormous surface. just this overflow of artistic genius. It's the antithesis of randomness. In the Sistine Chapel, randomness would be a bucket of paint accidentally kicked over and splattered on a wall, or a bunch of stains.
Right, and that's the creation model, is just splash, and it's the Sistine Chapel. Not change over time, one little change, one brush stroke of paint at a time over years and years. No, the creation model is splash, you have the Sistine Chapel. The evolution model is one brush stroke, specifically selected colors, selected places, selected locations, selected timing, when that goes down, selection. Yes. Whereas random, it would be, splash, and then the Sistine Chapel's there. Random is creation. Just, well, I don't know, I wouldn't say it's random. Maybe everything was chosen in it, but the method by which it was put up there was splash, and you have it.
Right? Flaking paint. The ceiling's coming down. We got to get Michelangelo in here to fix this mess. We have randomness and Michelangelo, and they are polar opposites.
Right, I agree with that. And evolution is not randomness. Evolution is selection. It is, again, a reproductive organism choosing its mate, choosing the location it lays its eggs or gives birth, choosing the environment, choosing the time of year that it decides to reproduce, whether or not to abandon its nest when a predator approaches, whether to fight or flight, all these different key factors that come into selection and what selection is. Selection is not just her saying, I'm going to choose this male because he has a big pretty tail. There are other selective factors that come into play as well.
Similar principles hold true in nature. If the random genetic mutations so essential to natural selection have no eye for blending colors or ability to formulate elegant patterns and shapes, then there must be some other agent responsible for the glorious petals of a lily.
Yeah, natural selection. Again, plants produce colorful, attractive flowers not to attract humans to say, oh, that's pretty, I want to put that in my backyard, but it's to attract pollinators to say, hey, this is where the yummy stuff that I make is. If you come get it and carry my pollen to my lover, please. So it's a flag. With flowers, it's a big flag. With organisms, other organisms, there's other reasons, of course, like other than mating selection too, for things to be brightly colored. There is, of course, aposematic coloration, which is to say, I'm poisonous, I'm dangerous, don't mess with me. And you have to be bright and stand out from your environment to say, here I am, I'm not hiding from you, because if you eat me, that's your problem. And then there's, of course, mimicry, which Batesian mimicry would be an organism that's, I'm not poisonous, but if I look like the poisonous guy, I will not get eaten as well. So then there's Batesian mimicry. So why things are brightly colored and what we would consider beautiful is because the way that we pick out our food gave us or the way that our ancestors picked out our food gave us a color spectrum where we pick out contrasting, brightly colored, especially in shades of reds and pinks, which is ironic because there's a pink flower up here to appeal to us. That's why a lot of the fruit that we cultivated is red, because we weren't the pollinators for the fruit, because the flowers are brightly colored, the fruit are brightly colored because we are seed dispersers. That's why they're attractive to us and attractive to primates, because we disperse their seeds. And red is the best color to contrast green, obviously. So most or the majority are somewhere along those lines of the color spectrum. Of course, there are other colored fruits as well, as we all know, but.
And the ornate decorations on a butterfly's wing.
You don't even get to see all of what's on the butterfly's wing, though. Again, we don't see all the color spectrum, so they're seeing all kinds of cool stuff we don't even get to see.
A designer whose works far exceed the constraints of Charles Darwin's survival of the fittest.
What we see in beautiful systems are
Beautiful can be survival of the fittest. You're fit if you're bright colored aposematic coloration in your little frog. That is a benefit to you to be that beautiful color because it's telling things not to eat you.
are features that go beyond what's necessary for mere survival. So for me, ultimately, beauty points to design because in a biological
They don't have to, when you say necessary for survival, where are you making that decision? You do not know what is being selected for and why. We can make inferences about characteristics, and some of them we can make fairly accurate, or what we appears to be accurate based on data. But as for like coloration and things of that nature, there's multiple reasons why that could be. It could be sexual selection, predatory aversion, camouflage.
logical context, beauty is an extra. It's an add-on. Beauty is there.
Beauty here is not an extra. Beauty here is a warning to predators for this organism, saying, "Do not come near me. I have venomous barbs." Same warnings used by the blue ring octopus in this case. But this is a sea snail.
Over and above what's needed just to make a go of it.
And those, check that out. Eye spots. Eye spots are another feature to distract. See how the actual eye itself is camouflaged into the pattern of the fish, but this eye is standing, the eye spot is standing out. That's to confuse the predator on which way the organism is facing and which way it's swimming. So that is a practical physiological feature.
Did just to make a go
Oh,
of it.
and vertical stripes also break up the outline of your body as you move among anything, any coral, for instance, here, or seagrasses and things of that nature.
Well, you start walking along that path, and it doesn't take very long until you realize you come to grips with the reality that there was a transcendent mind.
And then, of course, a betta fish is same situation as the peacock here. It's a display structure
That put this universe together as we find it. What we have right in front of us in the peacock, in tropical fish.
And you can coax the fish to have bigger tails in captivity because there's no environmental pressures that prevent their tails from going big. Because in the wild, of course, your tail starts to get too big and burdensome. It starts to inhibit your survival chances, makes you an easier target for prey, makes you slower, lots more drag through the water, trouble collecting food, getting not being able to fit into these tight spaces, things like that.
In the eye of the eagle.
We want to talk about the eye of the eagle. We're going to get back into the visual cortex of birds, and there's a lot to go over there. They see different colors that we see. They see different spectrums of lights than what we are able to see. Eagles, particularly, are able to pick out motion in a way that we cannot. They can pick out much more subtle movement. Because their ancestors hunted rodents of all things. Isn't that wild? Because they can see just the heartbeat of an animal through its skin.
In these exquisite designs that show not just engineering, but artistry, whimsy, humor, subtlety.
I want to see the humor. Because it's humorous to humans. Because humans find something whimsical doesn't mean that the organism does.
All the features of a supreme intellect.
Hey, Bread of Life. Good to see you, Rebecca.
And the final point, the one that really brings it home, is this idea of beauty, of a property that we perceive, that we understand, that we feel, that we respond to, that goes well beyond what living things need just to get by.
Right, and that's because we've been able to separate ourselves quite a bit from the natural world, start creating art. Once you have an idea of making art and using pigmentation to be representation of the world around you and doing different colors and shapes, and your brain really starts to expand, and our species, that's when we really started to, to take that gift that we had of being able to pick those colorful berries out among the green foliage, or to be able to pick the tiger's face hiding in the forest. We were able to depict those things and put them on the cave wall or on papyrus scrolls and things, and able to start producing what we call art. Our artistic mind started to interpret things in nature as artistic as well. So the fact that we can infer art because the way that our brains are wired does not mean that the pareidolia, does not mean the face and the wood knots is actually there. It does not mean that the eye spots are for you. It does not mean that all this beauty is there for us as humans to behold, because again, with birds and insects, they're seeing entire spectrums of light, so they're seeing patterns and colors and flowers and each other and in their mates and their predators. Predators are seeing things in their prey that we as humans cannot see, because we do not have access to that spectrum of the visual context that they're seeing things in.
That signal carries us beyond the world itself to a cause that's transcendent, to a cause that's divine. The world is designed. It's the only reasonable thing to infer from what we see.
Yeah. All right, so that was Creation Watch, and that was from Cindy Lincoln's YouTube channel. I'm not sure where the original video is from. She doesn't have a citation, I don't think. It says Beauty, Darwin in Design, The Peacock Scream, Beautiful Creator, Not Survival of the Fittest is the title of the video. And it's from, I guess, this John project that she's citing here. John 1010 project. Okay, so that was Creation Watch, and we looked at beauty. Were you convinced by an argument from beauty? I was not. You're loving the creation video? It's on Cindy Lincoln's channel if you wanted to watch the whole thing there, Rebecca. You think God made them to delight me? That'd be sweet of him. But, some of the other things he's done, I don't know if creating beautiful creatures for me is going to make up for those. But that's a discussion for another day. We're going to be moving right along to the news segment, because, to be frank, I think that it's pretty clear that Hive Science is going to be the new channel name, which I'm happy about. I love Hive Science. But I had a segment on the show called Hive Science, which I am going to now call Hive Science News. And that is what we are going to be diving into now. Let's see, not that one. There we go. Still got that Darwin stuff up. Just a moment. Darwin, sick of feathers. Choose your fighter. I would say of these fighters, I think the bear is probably going to come out on top pretty much every conflict. So, yeah, let's go with the let's go with the bear. But yeah, you definitely can choose your own fighter in the comments below. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is beaver testicles, the treasured testicles of the medieval beaver. So there you see a popular trend in medieval bestiaries in artwork. This is supposed to be a beaver. I know. It does not look anything like a beaver at all. The person who painted this, I can't imagine they'd ever seen a beaver and thought that this was a good depiction of it. There's no paddle tail, no, I guess, got pointed ears, no teeth, got these long, very canine-like legs. Yes, Castorium is what we're talking about. Okay, a beaver in a bestiary about 1270. Unknown illustrator, possibly made by Therouan, or made in Therouan, France. Tempera colors, gold leaf, and ink on parchment. Okay, so that's what that image is. Just giving you a citation on that. Popular in the European Middle Ages, the bestiaries. Did I skip that? Oh, yeah, here we go. Meet 19 animals of the medieval bestiary in Book of Beast, a blog series created by art history students at UCLA with guidance from Professor Meredith Cohen and curator Larissa Grolemond. The post complement the exhibition Book of Beast at Getty Center from May 14th to August 18th, 2019. That's from Ed. Popular in European Middle Ages, the bestiary is a type of illustrated manuscript. I love medieval bestiaries. I spent hours looking through them. A manuscript that describes and depicts beasts of all kinds. Even though each animal story has a Christian moral, some of the stories may surprise today's readers with their violent and sexual plots. The Beaver Hunt, for example, is a thrilling, vicious tale, still relevant to our daily lives. The Hunt for Castorium. The beaver's legend is one of humorous misfortune, as well as bravery and sacrifice. Throughout the Middle Ages, beavers were hunted for their castor sacs, which produce castorium, an oily substance used for medicinal purposes. During the hunt, the beaver was said to take it upon himself to bite off his testicles in order to end the chase. He reveals to the hunter that he does not have them and is spared. The beaver's castor glands were thought to be connected to its testicles, but were actually located internally. The word castor in Latin is a Latin term for beaver, and castorium is the substance secreted by both male and female beavers to scent mark their territories. While castorium might sound like it's related to the word castration, which coincidences with the beaver's tail, it actually comes from the Sanskrit term for musks. A beaver in here's another image of an alleged beaver that does not look anything like a beaver. It does have a flattened tail, but its tail is tiny. It still has the pointed ears and the unwebbed long toes, long limbs. So not really looking like a beaver, but getting closer to the horse, on the other hand, looks all right. I mean, as far as medieval bestiaries go. Good morning, Gur. Nice of you to join us. Late again, I see. And hello. All right. In the medieval bestiaries, the beaver is usually illustrated at the high point of his tail, in the midst of biting off his testicles. However, some illuminations depict the beaver already castrated with his testicles in midair, as he reveals himself to the hunter in hopes of ending the chase. The beaver is rarely depicted in a realistic manner in bestiaries. Its elongated body, thin tail, and exaggerated legs more closely resemble a fox. Yeah, I would say a fox. Definitely looks like a fox. Throwing vice at the devil. The story of the beaver biting off his glands goes as far back as Egyptian hieroglyphs, where it is alluded to the punishment for adultery. When adapted for Christian bestiaries, the beaver's tail took on a different message. The beaver hunt reminds man that if he wishes to live chastely and without sin, he must cut off all vices that could influence immoral behavior and throw them at the devil. So cut off your balls and throw them at the devil is the message of this, what do you call this, fable, I guess? By doing so, the devil will leave you alone. If the devil comes back to pressure acts of evil, man will reveal that he has cut off his vices and no longer has any desire to sin. Interestingly, the beaver's tail retains relevance in today's life. We still use the beaver's musky, vanilla-scented castoreum in perfume, medicine, and even rarely food. The Food and Drug Administration considers castoreum as natural flavoring and has approved it for as a legal food additive. So, Jen, yeah, vanilla extract contains beaver butt juice. LOL. Who knew that the beaver was the virtuous hero we all needed? And there he is, munching his balls. Yeah. So that was our first stop in Hive Science News. Just bringing everybody up to date on the beaver in medieval times in the way it was depicted. Then we will have one more segment here for our Hive Science News. This one is a really fun topic I just found out about this morning, and this is going to be our little environmental segment talking about leeches, of all things. Leeches expose wildlife's whereabouts and may aid conservation efforts. DNA extracted from parasitic worms, blood meal lets scientists track where the animals roam. Ecologists are using bloodthirsty leeches to evaluate the success of wildlife conservation efforts in China. Leeches suck. Most people try to avoid them. But in the summer of 2016, park rangers in China's Aleutian Nature Reserve went hunting for little blood gluttons. For months, the rangers searched through the reserve's evergreen forest, gathering tens of thousands of leeches by hand and sometimes plucking the slimy parasites off of the ranger's own skin. Each time the rangers found a leech, they would place it into a little preservative-filled tube, tuck the tube into the hip pack, and carry on. The work could help aid conservation efforts at Aleutian and elsewhere. There are many ways to measure how much effort goes into wildlife conservation, but it is difficult to assess the success of that effort, even in protected areas, said Douglas Yu, an ecologist at Kunming Institute of Zoology in China. But bloodthirsty worms may be the tool for the job. Leeches aren't picky eaters. They'll feast on the blood of many different creatures, from amphibians to mammals to fish. Scientists have shown that they can extract animal DNA from blood that leeches and other blood-sucking creatures have ingested. What's known as invertebrate-derived DNA, or iDNA, and identifies the source animal. And some researchers had suggested that iDNA, a type of environmental DNA, could be used to trace the ranges of animals in the area. Yu says, "We thought we would just actually try to do it." Enlisting 163 park rangers, Yu and colleagues deputized the leech hunters with gathering the parasites along rangers' regular patrol routes, which covered 172 acres of the reserve. 3 months later, the rangers had gathered 30,468 leeches. After extracting and analyzing animal DNA from the leech's blood meal, Yu and colleagues detected the presence of 86 different species, including the Asiatic black bear, domestic cattle, endangered Yunnan spiny frog, and of course humans. What's more, the iDNA gave clues to where the animals preferred to roam. The researchers reported March 23rd in Nature Communication, wildlife biodiversity was greatest in the reserve's high altitude interior. The researchers found while domestic cattle, sheep, and goats were more abundant in the reserve's lower and more accessible zones, because most of the wild species detected should be able to inhabit all parts of the reserve. The dichotomy suggests that human activity may be pushing wildlife away from certain areas, Yu says. Compared with other methods of surveying wildlife, using iDNA from leeches is really cost and time efficient and doesn't require a lot of expertise, says Arthur Coker, an ecologist at the Max Planck Institute for Science and Human History in Jena, Germany, or Jena, I guess it would be, right? Germany, who was not involved in the study. Camera traps, for instance, are triggered only by animals of a large enough size, and the instruments are expensive. Site-based surveys require trained observers. With leeches, Coker says, there are clear advantages. Yu and Coker both suspect the leeches and other blood-sucking critters, such as carrion flies or mosquitoes, will become more popular wildlife surveillance tools in the future. People are becoming aware of what iDNA brings to the table, Yu says. I am super stoked about iDNA. I am absolutely ecstatic about using that in the future to help us identify populations of organisms in an area. But that was Hive Science news today. We did the iDNA, and I think it's a very interesting factor that will come into play multiple times in the future, and I'm excited to see what other endangered species we are able to track and help support and provide proper environments for, based on the research being done here. Really cool stuff. But thank you so much for stopping by the Hive and spending a couple hours hanging out with me as we explored the world of science. Let me recap here. For Cryptic Corner today, we had the doorway on Mars and also some towers on Mars that people were claiming had alien origins, but further exploration showed us a whole lot of pareidolia going on there. In Creation Watch, we talked about beauty and design, and then we had what did we have for the science? We had the environmental issue for the tracking endangered species with the iDNA, and of course we had Kyle Brewer's Mars video at the beginning of the show. So if you're not subscribed, or if you're not subbed to Kyle, go out there and sub to Kyle. He's kind of my spotlight for this week. So thank you very much for joining the Hive today. Please remember to be kind and take care, and we will see you next week.